it's mostly to give you an added layer of security in case you have an inside job that goes wrong. For example, you have an angry employee or an angry admin who decides to delete everything, and this could be a way to have an added layer of security. Or, for example, you come or you work in an industry that requires you to have also a physical copy. I know that in some markets, for example, in the financial sector, they are required by law to keep also local copies. Also, you can backup active backup. With using active backup for Google, you can backup Google Workspace, you can backup Google Drive, Calendar, Gmail, Contacts, and Account Discovery. If you wanted to restore it, this is how it would look like. If you were at our event 2 years ago, I actually had a small workshop style where I actually backed a computer up and then I restored it during the actual event. If you remember, it didn't take more than 45 minutes. So this is how it would look like in the restoration portal. You would have a timeline, you can create different versions, and then you can restore it directly using bare metal restoration option. You can restore it on the file or folder level, or if the whole IT infrastructure is down, you can actually download it directly onto a third medium using DSM. So to recap, this 3-2-1 backup approach would look a bit like that. So you would use Active Backup Suite or Synology Drive. You can also do that to back stuff onto the NAS, and then you would use Hyper Backup and Snapshot Replication for added layer of security and to create an offsite copy. So more on snapshot replications. So basically, there are different models of snapshot replication. So active-active, extended replication, hub-to-spoke, and one-to-many. And I'll just briefly go over what they actually mean. So for example, if you have two branches, what you could do is create snapshot and then do snapshot replication between two branches. If you have, let's say, two offices, so this would be like an added layer where each office has a copy of the other, and that would be referred to as active-active. You can have an extended replication where you store replications from one office to two different branches, let's say. Or you could have something called hub-to-spoke, where from two different locations you store your replications onto a third location. And you could have one-to-many, where if it's very sensitive, you can have two different replication processes to two different locations. So other than backup, so you can actually utilize Synology NAS for different productivity things. So Synology also has its own calendar application. You can actually use it in a web interface, or especially interesting if you're a Mac user, it's fully integrated with your Mac calendar, so it's really easy to set up. I know that it's one of the unique features that we have, and it's a preferred ecosystem would be a Mac ecosystem to utilize the calendar there. If you want to use it, for example, Synology Calendar on your phone, you would need to have some workarounds, some patching going on, but on Mac, so also on iOS, there's nothing that you really need to do. It comes right out of the box, so you could actually sync all your calendar from the phone and have it saved onto your NAS. Also, Synology has its own mail solutions called Mail Plus. What would be a good scenario for using Mail Plus is for somebody who wants to get rid of ongoing license expenses. If you don't want to pay licenses every year, for example, to Microsoft or to any other provider, or if you're just conscious and want to keep everything safe and be the owner of your data, you could actually utilize a Mail Plus server. Mail Plus actually comes with 5 default licenses on every NAS that supports Mail Plus. And then later on, if you need more accounts, you need to purchase licenses. They come in stacks of 1, 5, and 20 licenses. But what is different different is that it's a perpetual license, so you buy it once and it's yours to keep forever. Should you decide to upgrade your NAS, you can actually transfer the license. If your NAS also goes bust for any reason, we can rescue your license, we can retrieve it and give it back to you. And if you are not too keen on using our Mail Plus application, if you would like to continue using Outlook or some other client that you're familiar with, that's also possible. You can integrate Mail Plus into familiar applications that you have. Synology also has its own chat solution, so private chat solution, which would be also a cost-effective way to get rid of some other providers, especially if you're a smaller company that doesn't really require too many tools that come, for example, on Slack or Microsoft Teams. This would be a perfect way to actually cut down on costs and actually have secure and a private chat solution. What is also important to mention is that this year we are going to invest a lot of our time and effort into creating a better experience on chat platforms, so it's actually going to be coming with many more features. You're going to be able to set up events, create calendar entries, and you're going to also be able to integrate it with existing video and audio platforms, so you'll be able to create meetings directly from chat. At the moment it only works with Jitsi, so if some of you have used Jitsi, you know it's not the most stable, but over time it's going to become a very mature product. I briefly touched on Synology Drive. So Synology Drive is actually a really nice application if you would like to turn your Synology into a private cloud. So if any of you are using OneDrive or Google Drive and you like the interface, you're familiar with that, well basically Synology's answer would be Synology Drive. It would allow you to have data synchronization, data sharing, backup, versioning, and so on, and multi-collaboration environment with your, let's say, colleagues at work. And it's fully integrated with Synology Office, so that's also interesting. Synology has its own Office suite, so you can actually use it to create and edit documents, spreadsheets, and presentations, and it works in a very effective multi-user collaboration environment, so it works offline and online, of course. So if you would like to find a way, for example, to replace Google Docs, actually Synology Office would be a perfect way to do that. On top of that, just like chat, a lot of efforts are going into developing Synology Office further. So at the moment it also has an AI assistant, so it can help you in writing your documents, in editing documents, and so on. And it's also free. Here I just decided to put this diagram into a small company scenario. So for example, let's think of this as a bigger company that has up to 100 employees, and they are using Synology, I would say, utilizing most of its applications. So here on this side they are using a bigger rack. Let's say this would be an RS3621, and they are running different applications on it. So they are running video server, so video station. They're running Synology Office, Chat, Mail Plus, Drive, and they have some light virtualization. Maybe they run a clocking in system, for example, at work. So how it would work is that they would utilize these applications in the office. So they would be using Synology Office to work together on files, for example. They would be using Synology Chat to communicate to each other. Synology Calendar would be there so that they know who's on leave, who has different events, meetings that day, and so on. Synology Mail Plus, so that they have effective way to communicate to each other. Synology Drive would be there so that they can access all of the files, either whether they're in office or at work or out of work. And also, for example, they have a lot of videos, so they're using Video Station to have a better and more optimal sorting of their videos. And let's say in your daily work, you can be using, for example, Mail Plus and Chat to communicate to everybody in your team. You could be using Synology Office and Synology Files, so when you're working in a team, or if you are remotely, if you're working from home. and you would be using Synology Drag to be accessing your files. So here you have a simple overview, a simple diagram, scheme of, usually I would say 75% of office work would be done using this method. If you are not in some field that requires some heavy and high performance software, then you would probably be able to utilize most of the Synology software that come directly on the NAS. Coming towards the end, I want to talk about Synology surveillance station. So like I said, you can turn every Synology NAS into an NVR, but what I didn't mention is that we also have our own VMS. It's called Surveillance Station. It's a free software that comes on every NAS product, so even from the J series, you are able to actually turn it into a NVR and run your surveillance deployment on it. At the moment, we support more than 8,500 IP cameras, so there is a pretty high chance that if you have some IP camera that is already on the list. On top of that, if the camera model, the specific model is not on the list, if it's an ONVIF compatible camera, it's going to work also directly outside the box. And also, if you have a bigger project that requires special type of cameras, it's probably not too hard for us to add the camera into the system, so just so you keep that in mind. I mentioned that we are going to go this path of closing the system, closing the compatibility lists, but not for cameras. That's for obvious reasons. Synology has 2 cameras. It would make no sense for us to close the compatibility list of cameras, so actually the camera compatibility list grows each and every day. As I mentioned briefly, you can also use C2 surveillance to create this dual recording way, so that you have a failover in case of, let's say, theft, or in case that your NAS goes bust for any reason. You can actually use C2 surveillance and have your recording saved also onto the cloud. And if you're using any of our NVRs that have PVA, the video analytics capabilities, you would be able to use these different scenarios, so you would be able to use it for people and vehicle detection. There's also license plate recognition, and actually what is good is that you can teach the DVA what your license format looks like. So I know that licenses can vary from country to country, so that's also possible. There's also some form of digital fencing, so you can create, let's say, intrusion detection. Maybe this is a good thing, for example, for some public buildings that are in the located downtown, like, I don't know, maybe you want to protect Ministry of Interior, where you don't want to have like false alarms because it's a very busy street, so you can create it in a way that if somebody lingers for, let's say, half a minute or a minute, only then this intrusion detection will be found. You can have people counting as well, where you can put a ceiling camera and then it can create a counter of how many people have entered or exited a building. Congestion alerts, this was very popular feature during COVID, let's say, and you can have face recognition, and also here you can create a database, so you can upload database of photos, and then it can tell you if a certain person that you want or don't want has entered a certain venue. Also on top of that, there's capability to use a mobile phone application called VSCAM, where you can actually overview your surveillance policy directly from a phone. When it comes to our routers, they also come with a smart operating system called Synology Router Manager. It's nothing like traditional operating systems on the routers. It actually utilizes the user interface and the logic of the DSM. So I think that makes us a little bit different and makes us stand out compared to other router manufacturers. So if you like how DSM looks, you'll actually be very familiar with how you would use Synology Router Manager. On top of that, it comes with a few significant applications that I want to highlight. The first one would be called Safe Access. Here you can essentially create different policies and network policies for users. How many, for example, hours of internet a certain user can use. This can be optimal, for example, for home scenarios where you don't want your children, let's say, all day on the internet. Then you can create different policies, which websites can be accessed, for example. You can prevent people from going to social media at work, similar. And it works in a way that it collects the MAC addresses of the devices, so it's not easy for a user to bypass these filters. Also on top of that, we have VPN Plus, where you can create site-to-site encrypted tunnels. So for example, if you have two locations that need to communicate through a VPN, you can actually create a fully encrypted tunnel that runs all the time. Also, what is important to mention is that this is a free application and we no longer require licensing fees. Some other things that I want to mention today, which I would say are basically unique features for Synology, is something called Synology High Availability. And why this is so interesting and unique is because you can take two identical or very similar NAS already starting from DS224+, so from a very low price point, and with that you can create an active-passive cluster, basically. You can create a failover for both storage and processing, and this is very different to competition because we don't require a license for this, and at this price level there is no other vendor that can actually provide you with this. I was actually also asked by Adsys to particularly mention a little bit WARM, so this is an addition to this presentation. So WARM is basically a function that is short for write once, read many. Basically, we did not have this feature before, and the feature allows you to save certain files into folders where you can only read the folder and you can no longer change, edit, or delete these files. So this was needed, for example, for certain industries, for example, for lawyers, for example, for accounting industries, where we simply didn't have an answer to this because an admin could always meddle or change certain files. Now we have this finally. I know that actually in the past we have lost a few projects in Bulgaria because we didn't have this, so I think this will help us in the future. Other use cases for WARM would be to help you counter ransomware, because actually these files cannot be changed in any way. And just kind of to bring it down to layman's terms, basically WARM, if you are still wondering what the hell is this, it's basically like a CD or a DVD, so you can actually put stuff on the CD, but you can no longer change it, it's just there. So you can actually do that now on a NAS, should you want that. It works on a shared level, like I said, and then you can create different policies. I'll show you in a simplified table in the next slide what that looks like. You can have some form of grace period, or you can have an immediate lock. So for example, you can set grace period to a certain number of days. For example, for certain contracts, you could still make changes should there be a need. Or you can create also an amendment policy where certain files can be only amended like after the last word was written. You cannot go back and change. So it's, for example, very useful to employment contracts, so nobody can change your employment contract. You can only add appendices and addendums to the contracts. We have two modes. One is called compliance, one is called enterprise. So basically they are very similar. So the only difference is this, is that if you have compliance mode, for example, you are talking about some invoices that need to be kept, let's say, for up to 10 years, then you can put them in this compliance mode folder where literally nobody can delete them, not even an admin account. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up for today. If you are interested to collaborate more with us, if you have any questions, you can go to our website to About Us section, and you can actually write us a product inquiry. You can also give us some feature suggestions. Features are then logged, and who knows, if your feature is a popular one, it might be implemented. You can also reach us out by writing to our Balkan sales alias. There's also business cards over there for myself, so if you want to talk to me directly by email, you can do that. You can also catch me here and we can discuss about any questions you may have. We also have our YouTube channel. It's quite small, but I'm proud of it. So I'll leave the QR code here while I answer any of your questions. So if you would like, you can follow us and give us some support. And yeah, with that I'll wrap it up. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.